Okay, here's a good example of some functions where you should be using reference parameters. The first here, get nums. In this function, you're asking the user to enter two integer values. So you need to get those two values, store them in variables, and return both of them back to the main program. So you'll see here I have two reference parameters. They're both going to go back to the main program. So it's going to send input 1 back into small and input 2 back into big. So that's getting my two numbers. Then I'm going to call order nums. And in this function, I'm going to put these in order of smallest to biggest. So I take the two values in. If the first is greater than the second, so the first one's actually going to be bigger, I'm going to take num2 and just store it in a temporary variable. Then num1 is going to become num2, and then num2 is going to store whatever's in the temporary variable. These three lines of code will in essence swap the value of the two variables. So if num1 is 7 and num2 is 5, after this code executes, they'll be swapped. If num1 is 5 and num2 is 7, the code's not going to be executed. So when it returns out of this function, num1 will have the smaller and num2 will have the larger. Okay? Alright, so I'm just going to run this program. Right? So if I put in 55 and 66, the smallest and biggest are 55 and 66. If I put in 66 and 55, again, they are 55 and 56 when they get displayed. So in both of these functions, there are two things being returned back to the main program. So that is a good example of when you should be using reference parameters. And notice reference parameters are used in void functions, not value returning functions.